I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected.
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicentre with me, Marya Shakil. There is no end to the political crisis in Great Britain, where another bombshell has been dropped by none other than Prime Minister Liz Truss, who has resigned from the top post, triggering another leadership contest in the Conservative Party. Truss was in 10 Downing Street for just 45 days. The crisis erupted after a mini budget comprising of tax cuts and heavy borrowing sent the economy into a downward spiral. After 10 days of defending her economic plan, she was forced to sack her finance minister and make several policy U-turns. Majority of Conservative leaders turned against Liz Truss as she failed to contain the factionalism in her own government. This 45-day disaster has resulted in Liz Truss becoming the shortest-serving Prime Minister in British history. First, let me give you an overview of this saga. Where did it all begin? July 7th is when Boris Johnson announced his resignation because he had seen a spate of resignations himself. His party said that his position had become untenable because of the scandals that had played out, particularly during the COVID period. September 5th is when Liz Truss won the Conservative leadership contest. It was between her and Rishi Sunak in the final round. September 8th, Liz Truss announced energy support package. Just 12 days later, Truss announced tax cuts and boosts borrowing in mini budget. The move tanks the pound and UK government bonds. October 3rd is when Truss does a U-turn on cut to highest rate of income tax. 10 days later, Liz Truss sacks her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and does a U-turn on corporation tax freeze. October 17, the new Chancellor Jeremy Hunt reverses nearly 100% of the mini budget. So is he in line now to take over the crown or take over or succeed Liz Truss? Well, he's been seen as a savior of sorts, certainly right now in Great Britain. October 19th is when Home Secretary Suella Braverman resigns and blames Truss for broken pledges. October 20th, Liz Truss herself resigned as Prime Minister of United Kingdom. Now, this has triggered another leadership crisis in the Conservative Party, as expected. Let me give you the main faces who can succeed Liz Truss. Remember, Liz Truss is the shortest-serving Prime Minister in British history, who has quit after just 45 days as Prime Minister due to revolt. There are the contenders, and number one is Rishi Sunak, former Chancellor and runner-up in previous race. Sunak is seen as the best choice to reboot the economy. He is the main face of the anti-Boris coalition. Then there is Penny Mordaunt, who serves as the leader of the House of Commons. Penny received a wave of support in the previous race. She is the favourite among Conservative moderates as well. She is also the favourite of the pro-Boris camp in the party. Then there is Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, who is canvassing support among MPs for himself. He commands an image of a stable leader. He is popular among the Conservative base. But then there is a possibility of a dark horse. This dark horse could be this man, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who could make a backdoor entry again. Now, internal polls are suggesting that there is a demand for him to return to 10 Downing. He remains the face of the party that swept the previous elections. Let me go straight to London, and I have the guests joining me from there. Nicholas Nugent is senior journalist. Maximilian Hess is Central Asia Fellow in the Eurasia program at the Foreign Policy Research Institute. We also have Lord Rami Ranger, member of House of Lords of the United Kingdom. He's also a British businessman. Lord Ranger, I'm going to begin with you. 45 days, that is what all it took for someone who had the trust of a party, and then her party and the people of Britain lost faith in her.
I'd like to commend Liz Truss for resigning, because the promises she made, they were unsustainable. Rishi had warned, but she challenged him. And in the end, when she realized she could not carry out those promises, she resigned. She did the honorable thing. Otherwise, the party would have been dragged more, and there would have been more chaos for many months to come. And I'm so thankful to her that she did the honorable thing. She left so that a new prime minister can be elected, who can start, who can revive the party's fortune and also bring some stability in the country. You see, Liz made few mistakes. Number one, her cabinet was full of her friends. She did not bring talent to make herself stronger. They were all those people who ticked the right box during the election. So that was, she made herself very weak. And the second thing is that the mini budget which she brought, where she wanted to give away lots of money by borrowing money, and that turned misfired, because even Rishi had warned that we are going through recession. We got challenges brought by war in Ukraine. Fuel prices are going through the roof. Food prices are going through the roof. This is the time to tighten our belt, not to be spent thrift. But her policy was that we will spend our way out, we'll borrow the money, but that didn't go down very well with the market, with the City of London. And on top of that, she never took advice from the economist, the Bank of England, the expert, before she produced that mini budget. That was the beginning of the end of her premiership. So these are the issues which are now in front of us. But the next election, I am pretty sure, will be between two candidates who are second and third, namely Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt. I don't think they will go to the grassroots and there will not be any more people coming forward to put their hat in the ring, because they have already tried and tested their popularity among their colleagues. Okay. So if they want to repeat the same again, they will get the same result again. So the two favorite candidates are Rishi Sunak. My favorite is Rishi Sunak, and Penny Mordaunt.
And you don't see any chance of or a possibility of Boris Johnson returning? Some kind of backdoor entry?
Impossible, because his own colleagues in Parliament were responsible for throwing him out of the government. So I don't think they will now forgive him so quickly, and they start voting for him.
Okay. Nicholas, Ms. Truss announced her resignation less than 24 hours after she said, "I'm a fighter, not a quitter." What really changed in 24 hours?
Well, the pressure of members of the Conservative Party in Parliament. She was losing support all the time. It's difficult to quantify, but at least a dozen Conservative MPs had gone public by this morning, demanding that she quit, in effect, because they have everything to lose, remember. They know that the Conservative Party's standing in the country at large is way, way down. And if there were to be a general election, most existing members of the Conservative Party in Parliament would lose their seats. It's as blunt as that. So they dragged her down. She lost credibility. She lost credibility the moment she sacked her finance minister, Kwasi Kwarteng, and replaced him with Jeremy Hunt, who came up with, frankly, a much more sensible set of policies by U-turning on everything that had been announced in that famous mini budget at the end of September. So this really has been a contest within the Conservative Party. the rest of us have had very little to do with it, except we've observed how the Conservative Party's stock in the country at large has fallen. And even worse, we've observed how the markets have turned against the government. And that's really what brought her down. The combination of the effect of the markets reacting to her attempt to cut taxes, but not telling us how she was funding that. That's really what it was about. And coupled with the Conservative members of Parliament losing faith in her. So that's what dragged her down. And already by last night, it was quite clear she was going to have to go. The only thing we couldn't have predicted was quite when.
Yes, but it was so sudden in many ways. Although she had lost two of her four most senior ministers in the government, and it was largely chaotic, but she was the one who kept on saying that she was prepared to front up. And she said that she has taken certain tough decisions and she has done those U-turns. But Max, her entire premiership was chaotic. And many say that it is mortally wounded as well. 45 days is what she got. Do you think it was pure mistakes or flaws on the economic front which is responsible for it? Or is there something more than what meets the eye?
I think that she didn't have a lot of support from within her own parliamentary party at the beginning. The then complete loss of economic confidence as a result of the mini budget, and then her decisions to sack her own ally, Kwasi Kwarteng, who was the intellectual mind behind this complete disaster of a budget. But that lost her more support from even some of her own allies. And then just yesterday, we saw her fall out with the right wing, including Suella Braverman, who wanted to vastly restrict immigration, whereas Liz Truss somewhat wanted to increase it, I mean, only a little bit, to help boost some of the growth forecasts here. And then we saw the complete mess yesterday in Parliament, where the chief whip and deputy chief whip resigned and then unresigned. It was a confidence vote, and then it wasn't a confidence vote, and then it was a confidence vote again. And I think that made clear to the
So it was largely, when you say chaos, the chaos was within the government. There was no clarity of the direction, or was it her party turning against her?
Well, I think there was no clarity over the direction, but also it became clear that she was not competent to lead, that she simply lacked the political nous to guide her party within Parliament, let alone to any kind of future election.
So this implosion, Kuldeep Shekhawat, is it Rishi Sunak next? Everybody in India particularly is anticipating that he could very well take charge. But several of those who are in Britain are of the opinion that people do not really relate to him much. What is the truth?
Well, he's a good contender, a very good economist. He knows his game. See, this is a political game and an economic game, as my predecessors have just told. What Rishi has in plus is that he knows the game of money. He understands how money works. You just cannot print money and pump it into the economy and then say, hang on a minute, here we are, we will do things. No. Economy has to run the way it needs to be run. Rishi understands this, and the public also knows that he has got good knowledge of what needs to be done. He was a chancellor for quite some time, and he understands the economy, he understands the British system, and he knows what needs to be done. So he has got an upper hand. Let us see how the rest of the parliamentarians behave with him. That is what is going to be important. Because last time round, when it was said that only parliamentarians will vote for him, then it was for sure that he would win. But this time round, now the story has come to him with only he requires is some support of the parliamentarians. And with Penny Mordaunt, I think they are pitching her not against him, but with him. So she will be a very important partner along with Rishi. Let us see how it pans out.
Okay.
You will have the answer in a week's time.
Lord Rummy Ranger, this is something that Britain should not have gone through, but because of the circumstances that it is in and the nature of this crisis, which is only escalating, Truss was forced into humiliating U-turns. She scrapped the planned cut in the top rate of income tax. By this morning, more than a dozen Conservative MPs had publicly urged Liz Truss to resign. So there was a market meltdown. Things had collapsed and they look really bleak. Whosoever takes charge will have a huge responsibility going forward and going ahead. Who do you think is best suited at this point? And who will have the support of the people along with the Conservative Party?
I think the last election was flawed because they should not have gone to the grassroots members. This is exactly what happened with Jeremy Corbyn. He was rejected by his parliamentary colleagues where he had to work, where he had to rely on the support and take strength. He was rejected by them. Then the grassroots selected him and planted him amongst them. The result, he got defeated and lost many important Labour seats. So similarly, I had been pleading with the party not to go to the grassroots. The Prime Minister has to work with the members of Parliament. If he's popular among them, they will not do backstabbing. They will not do what they've done to Liz Truss. They will not make his life difficult. But if you plant somebody from outside, like Liz was planted, and
but why are you seeing Liz as an outsider? And when you say backstabbing, who exactly? So are you saying that there was a larger conspiracy behind her exit and that came from within the party and within the government?
Well, first of all, when she appointed her cabinet, they were not those people with talent. They were all those people who ticked the right box, who elected her, who supported her. That is not the way to run a government or country, because you're not running a family where you offer job to your friends and family members. This is a very serious matter running the nation. You should have brought talent, and those who oppose you, there is a proverb, don't you take revenge when you make them your friend. She should have gone out to bring the talent into her cabinet, and people who were against her should have been brought to unite the party, but she did not do that, and the result is party remained fragmented, and some were against. Most of them who supported Rishi were against her, and only people who supported her were with her, but there were not that many. So therefore, I hope to, because Rishi was a favorite by his colleagues who have worked with him. He was a chancellor at the most difficult time when the country was facing COVID pandemic. He demonstrated his vision and intelligence by bringing the furlough scheme, by giving money and support to small businesses and saving their job, their livelihood, and so much effort he put in to make sure that the companies don't go under. So Rishi has the experience, and whatever he said during the campaign, he has been vindicated. Liz Truss, I respect her that she made false promises which she could not deliver, and then she done the honorable thing by resigning. But Rishi has proved himself right at every level, and I think even if they have to go back to the public, he will be selected because he is the man with knowledge, experience, and vision.
So you are betting big on Rishi Sunak. What about you, Nicholas Nugent? As a journalist and on ground, what are you sensing? Who do you think is the next person at 10 Downing?
Well, firstly, I have no political affiliation, so I'm not. I don't belong to the party, and I certainly don't get a vote. What I will predict is, I think, as Lord Remy Ranjit has said, that I think Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt will be the final two. They were in the final three last time when Liz Truss got it. And Rishi Sunak is the favourite of parliamentarians. We learnt that last time round. So if it doesn't go beyond parliamentarians, then I think he has the best chance of winning. Let me explain. If they follow the usual procedure, the members, Conservative members of Parliament, get to choose down to the final two. And then the final two, it's put out to Conservative Party members in the country at large. What I suspect will happen this time is that once it's got down to the final two, the number two will withdraw, and then it doesn't go to the people at large, the Conservative Party at large. This is my expectation. I may be wrong, and we may get a popular vote, because frankly, if you see Rishi as the lead candidate based on his background, it was only the party members who reversed that. He is definitely the favourite of Conservative members of Parliament. So I'm making two predictions here.
Okay.
One is that Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt will be the final two. And secondly, that if they if the second candidate drops out and it's not given to the party at large in the country, then I would think that Rishi is the strongest candidate.
Okay, so you feel that Rishi Sunak perhaps maybe through this time around. Maximilian Hess, what about you?
Well, I think that Rishi Sunak's track record is not necessarily as good as it has been reported to be. Of course, he did manage the coronavirus response, but the UK had one of the largest instances of fraud in its government procurement, and there was not a lot of oversight of that from the Treasury. And then there were more pedestrian mistakes, such as the eat out to help out vouchers that likely helped spread the virus just as it was raging. So I actually think if Rishi Sunak were smart, he would not look to stand to be the leader, or at least would actually be the one who would resign in that second round and let Penny Mordaunt do it. Also because the future of the Conservative Party right now is quite bleak. They're so far behind the polls, and Rishi Sunak could get a lot of that, back, but I still don't think it'll be enough to turn the tide. So maybe take one of the great offices of state, a different one, position yourself as the Conservative leader for the next time around. But to let a Penny Mordaunt do it this time. Now, she doesn't have the same level of government experience, so that may not fly with all the other Conservative MPs.
But Maximilian, what about Jeremy Hunt? He was seen as savior of sorts this time around.
Jeremy Hunt, of course, has been seen as a savior, at least by the markets, but he's been rejected by the party membership before, and he's not that popular within the parliamentary party itself or with the broader public. If it was the kind of scenario where they effectively agreed to make it a caretaker PM and to call the elections early, which would require the passage of a new law, given the Fixed Term Parliaments Act, but that only requires a parliamentary majority, so it's certainly feasible.
Okay,
I think all the opposition parties would vote for it.
Just enough time for the final comments from Lord Rummy Ranger. Lord Rummy Ranger, so what's going to happen over the next 48 hours? What are you sensing?
Well, it'll be very simple and straightforward. In the last round, many people threw their hat in the ring. There were about 40 candidates who wanted to be prime minister, and they tested their popularity and they tested their appeal. So I don't think they want to be venture again. So there'll only be Rishi and Penny, and I hope they can do a deal where Penny becomes deputy prime minister and Rishi becomes the prime minister. The team will be very strong, and then they can steer the country together for the national unity. We should not repeat the mistakes what Liz done, where she only appointed her own friends. Rishi must appoint every talent, every different shade of Conservative Party MP in his cabinet to unite the party, because this is a very tough time, because,
Yes.
War in Ukraine is another challenge we are facing, and the inflation is nearly 10%. And, this is very serious time. It is time for unity government, which put the interest of people above themselves.
All right. Thank you so much to all the panelists who joined me on this discussion. We're slipping to a short break. Up next, there's no end to the political war over Hindi. Even as Prime Minister Narendra Modi bats for local languages, is this parochial politics over language? I'm going to take that discussion in just a bit. Stay with us.